Ladies and gentlemen, I hope everybody's doing well. I'm a tad bit under the weather, so I am taking care of myself. It feels like a mild common cold. I have been out in the cold elements a few times, when we were in the low teens and everything. I had to still be out a few times, but I'm okay. It could be worse. So, we're going to go over something. And before I get started, I am going to put the link in the chat. And if you're able to open this up, I want you to do so. Okay. So hold on. Okay. If you can open up this link or copy and paste it and then open it up, please do so. Please open up that link. Actually, I don't have a sore throat. I don't have a headache. I don't have a fever. I just have congestion. That's really all I have. And I've been drinking a lot of tea and it has not gotten worse. So I'm good. I mean, don't worry about me. One thing, I don't stay sick for long. I always bounce back. Open up that link. Once you have it open, please give me a 1. Please give me a 1 if you have the link open. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right. I want you to follow me on this one. And I'm going to give some commentary. Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at the reason why we are going through a lot of things that we have since being around these folks. They are watching our numbers go up as their numbers come tumbling down. This is why our women go in the hospital and many times they don't make it out. The babies don't make it out because they have for all this time tried to diminish our numbers. This is why the police have no concern in the world about shooting us unarmed. I want y'all to think about everything that has occurred with us. I really believe it's tied to this. I really, truly do. I want you to think about at one point in time in America, we outnumbered our forefathers during chattel slavery, outnumbered the white population, right? You've heard about that in history, right? Now, think about how did they turn that around? They turned that around by flooding the country with a bunch of people coming over from Europe, right? They just brought loads and offered them free land and all kinds of goodies if they would come over, right? So then the scale kind of went in their direction when they flooded the country. Look at what's happening. We went up 32% in 2 decades. What do you see them doing today? Flooding the country with those from South America because they absolutely don't want to see us rise. What you're seeing is history repeat itself. That's what you're seeing. They see our numbers going up, so now they got to flood the country again with anybody that's not like us. This is what's happening. Number 2, I want you to observe this is a mixture. It's us, Caribbeans, and Africans. and the numbers are exploding in the country. So ask yourself, what have they been pounding in our head all this time? You're 13% of the population. You're 13% of the population. Okay, if we are 13% and the numbers rose up 32% in 2 decades, you see how huge that is? That's huge to jump up with that many melanated people in 2 decades. 2 decades, y'all. They see this. So, how do you now tell us you're just 13% of the population and you got this big explosion going on? Just understand, now that you look at something like that, you can understand why they have lied to us all this time. Well, the Latinos, I don't believe are as big as they claim. I don't believe they're as big as they claim. I think they have used psychological warfare on us. I mean, just look at a lot of the stories out there. The Latinos aren't having babies like that anymore. In fact, if you look at the younger generation among the Latinos, these young people don't want to be sitting at home, especially the women. They don't want to be sitting home having a whole herd of babies. If you listen to them talk, they want careers, they want money. That's what they want. They don't want to repeat what their parents did. Listen to some of these young Latinos. They're not talking, oh, I'm just going to lay around and have a whole herd of babies. They don't sound like that anymore. Especially if they've been in America for a few generations, they're not having babies like that. They don't want all them kids. All right? They don't want all them kids. See, listen to me on this one. They can't flood the country with Europeans anymore because it would be counterproductive. They're not reproducing. So, what you would be ultimately doing is flooding the country with a bunch of people that are not reproducing. It doesn't matter where they are in the world, ladies and gentlemen. They're not reproducing. So, they know they can't bring those kind of people over here to the land. It would be for naught, right? So they figure they can get the south of the border people and get them to come and have some babies, and then they can be back to outnumbering us in the country. That's what this is all about. That's what all the killing of our people is about. We're rising and they're falling. See, for a while we thought, okay, we're rising and we're more heightened on a spiritual level. But now we see that's not true. We are also rising on a physical level. So we have rose not only spiritually, we are rising on a physical level too. You really got to read the big picture in front of you. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to diminish our numbers. But we were kind of right all along. Remember, we were saying they were doing this because of us. They were letting all these people in to try to push us down and keep us down. Well, now you know you were right. Now you know you were right. So anytime, that is huge for that many melanated people to explode. That's an explosion, 32% in 2 decades. And it makes you wonder, how much did we go up the decades before these past 20 years? We had to go up even then. Listen to me now, y'all, because I did my family tree. There is no point in time in the history where we flatlined. We never flatlined, y'all. Never. If you do your family history and start looking at the old census, we kept going up in numbers every 10 years when it was done. Okay? I never seen one point when I looked at the census where we flatlined or we start declining. They did, but we never did. So when I do the low birth rate, and I always get people within our community, yeah, but Black people are declining too. No, we're not. No, we're not. And I like how people will tell me that and they never provide any data. It's almost like it hurts their soul to hear them folks are declining. So they got to come back and try to make it seem like, well, it's not so bad because we're declining too. No, we're not. Trust me, the next person that tells you that our group is declining, make them prove it. I promise you, they will not be able to do it. I promise you, y'all, they won't be able to do it. See, now do you understand when they made them back in 2021 when them Haitians were all in Texas? Now do you understand why they got their behinds the hell up on out of here? Does it now make sense to you why they got them Haitians the hell up on out of here? It should make sense to you now. You notice they don't get them out quite as fast, but they couldn't wait to herd up them Haitians and fly them right back to Haiti. They wanted them gone. Now, when the hurricane hit down in, wasn't it Bermuda? Back when Trump was in office, and then some of the people came to Florida. Ron DeSantis was having a meltdown. Donald Trump was having a meltdown. They didn't want these people here. Now, do you understand why they were reacting that way? Look at what's in front of you. Do you understand now? Do you understand when melanated people come, they got a problem with that? Now you know why. So let's look at it together, y'all, because that's why I pass this on to as many of your family and your friends that you got. Pass it on. Pass it on. But you know what? Latinos, the thing, they're not big in every state, y'all. I think we are bigger in most of the states than they are. I really think they're playing a head game on us. You may think I'm incorrect, but I think the Latino thing, they have been running a big sham on us. Yes, when I go out, I see them with kids, but I don't see them with no big herd of kids. You might see them with 2, 3 kids, at least around where I am. I never go out and there's 10 kids of Latinos and their parents. I don't see that. And like I said, they're not having babies like that. They don't want all them children, because I even had one tell me on a job, how am I going to take care of them kids? I can barely take care of myself. And that's the truth. Look at the prices of everything. Who the hell can have a whole herd of kids nowadays? You can't do it, especially in America with all this inflation. Ain't nobody trying to put themselves in debt like that. If anything, they're upset with a lot of the millennials because the millennials are refusing to have kids. I'm like, the hell with that. I ain't having nothing. Well, I'll post it again. You must have came after I posted the link. I'll do it again. And this is it. So if you come in afterwards, you're going to have to scroll for the link. Oh, yeah, yeah. There's probably millions of us that don't get counted in the census because our people generally don't want to be counted. We don't want to be counted by this government. And we don't want to be counted by them because we don't trust them. We don't trust the government. And that's largely why any numbers that the census report is always an undercount of us. Always. Just remember that. Even the numbers that I saw back when I started piecing together my family tree, y'all, even those numbers were an undercount. Those numbers were undercounted too. That's one thing since the census has been around, and they even admitted this a few years ago. You can even find the article. They admitted that they have undercounted us in this country from the time the Census Bureau started all the way up until now. They admitted that they were undercounting us the entire time. In fact, I did a video on it a few years ago when the article came out where they admitted that they undercounted us and they overcounted the white population. So even their numbers are not accurate. So let's get into it. Let me share my screen. This is what everybody should see. This is what everybody should see. If you see my screen, give me a 1. You know what? The Rock, my uncle, I got an uncle. He's 78 years old down in Florida. He and we talk a few times a month. He told me when he was a child going to school, grade school, he said he was told back then we were 12% of the population. And he said, it don't make sense that we're 13%. How do we only go up 1% from the time he was a child all the way up until now? Thank you, everybody. He said he believes there's 100 million of us in this country. He believes the melanated population is 100 million strong in this country. So y'all, now just keep in mind, this is our numbers, our Caribbean brothers and sisters, and the Africans. In a 20-year period, this melanated population in these here Americas jumped up 32%. It jumped up 32%. But that's what my uncle told me he believes. He believes we are 100 million strong in America. But they're never going to tell the right numbers out of fear. Because just think about it, y'all. If we knew we were big, they know we're not going to listen to them anymore. We'll just blow them off. Anything they say or do will be insignificant. It's our time to rise. That's why we're seeing this. It's our time to rise. Now, remember, we are in the time that everything that has not, a lot of things that have been hidden from us is now being revealed. Now, just think about this, y'all. They've known this for 2 decades, and they're just coming out to tell us now. They're just coming to tell. Just think about that. They're just telling us now. Look at how long they've known this. 20 years. 20 years, and they're just coming out to say this came out January 20th, 2024, and they're just coming out with this info. But prior to this, what would they do? Come around. You're only 13% of the population. and you do 50% of the crimes. That doesn't even make any sense. I guess that's high IQ math. That doesn't even make any sense. And they always, because their population is known for falling off, you notice they never tell you what their true numbers are, or they'll give you some fake number. We're 250 million strong. Y'all ain't hardly that big in America. I had somebody tell me that. And I was like, y'all ain't hardly that big in America. 250 million strong. Yeah, in your dreams. in your dreams, you are. Yeah. So it should make a lot of sense to you why they are doing sneaky things to pick us off. Like I said, the pregnant women going to the hospital, not coming out, the children, babies not coming out, the shooting of unarmed people in our community. It should all make sense now to why this stuff is happening. All right. So if you got the article up, let's do it, y'all. US Black population sees 32% increase, Pew study shows. Again, this came out January 20th, 2024. The Black population in the United States has grown by 11 million people in roughly 2 decades. That is huge. For you to jump up in the double digits, that's huge, y'all. According to the latest study from the Pew Research Center, there was a 32% increase between the years of 2000 and 2022, bringing the Black population up from 36.2 million to 47.9 million people. I bet you it's double or even triple that. The study analyzed recent data from the Census Bureau American Community Survey. The seeming population explosion is based upon a few things: an increase in the birth rate among Black women between the ages of 15 to 44, a rise in interracial marriages, a willingness for mixed race people to identify as Black. Now, some do and some don't. That's kind of a mixed bag right there. A percentage of Black on census forms, and a rise in immigration from Africa and Caribbean countries, which that is absolutely true. That is true. That is true. Because I got Caribbeans that live around me, and there's a lot more in the community than it was years ago. So, yes, many of them are coming here to mainland America to live and work and raise their families. According to Mark Lopez, director of race and ethnicity work at the Pew Center, the number of foreign born Black Americans has nearly doubled since the year 2000, rising from 2.4 million people to 5.1 million, making foreign born US Blacks about 11% of the nation's population. That is like phenomenal. That's phenomenal. And look at it this way, y'all. Remember, the tribes are in four corners of the earth. So remember, our tribes are also in Africa, and our tribes are also in the Caribbean. All right. They may not all be our people, but plenty of them are. The African American population is not the fastest growing. Yeah, because y'all are doing all kinds of things to try to stifle our growth. And you've been doing that for centuries now. But they are growing at least as fast as the rest of the nation. So they are admitting we're still growing, y'all. They are still, they got to always throw a monkey wrench in everything. We are still growing. The nation's Asian population, for example, has grown quickly. Yes. And you know what, too? There's a lot because they always focus on the illegals south of the border. A lot of these Asians are illegal too, but they tend to leave them alone. You don't hear about a lot of Asians getting deported, but a lot of those Asians are coming in through the border too. But there are a lot of illegal Asians all over this country. So that part is true. I can see how they grow because many of them are illegal. The nation's white population has grown a little more slowly. They're not growing at all. So, as the nation has grown, so has the Black population. Since 2000, Blacks have represented 13 to 14% of the population, and we know that can't be true. All these centuries, and we just been standing still. But you're also admitting in this article that we have grown, but you're still trying to keep us at the same number. So just look at the Jedi mind trick that they're playing here. Okay, so 13 to 14% of the US population. So we grew, but we're still at the same percentage. Again, I want you to use your mind and realize what they're telling you is a bunch of BS. All right, so the number of Americans who say they are two or more races have gone up, and there has been a rise in interrace marriage rate. Also, there have been more people saying they are both Black and Hispanic on census forms. Yes, I do believe that. I do believe that. Whenever I see interracial couples, of course I see, Black and white, but around where I am, I see a lot of Hispanic and Black too. So, in terms of the birth rate for African Americans, the general fertility rate among Black females ages 15 to 44 was 6.1% in 2022. Okay, that's according to the study. So, the C-19 pandemic is not the reason. That would only have been a factor the past few years. The national Black population has grown before that time across the nation. The Black population look a lot like other groups. The fertility rate was a little higher for Latinos. See, they're not saying there was this big explosion of Latinos. And to be honest with you, I don't really think they're that much higher. And let me explain. This is just my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. I don't think the Latino population was really that much higher than us. The reason why I'm saying this to you is because of what's going on now. If the Latinos were way ahead of us, why are you trying to flood the country with them now? They couldn't have been that further ahead of us. They are flooding them in to ensure that they will outnumber us. So they're not having an explosion because they're having an explosion of babies. They're exploding, their numbers are exploding because they are opening up the floodgates and letting them in. That's a hell of a difference. That's why I don't believe they were that much ahead of us, just from what I'm observing and what's going on at that southern border. Why would you flood them in if they're already ahead of us? That's why I don't believe they were, y'all. I think they were just playing the Jedi mind trick on us to make us believe that. That's my opinion. You may see it a different way. I think you're flooding the zone because they really wasn't ahead of us. And if they were, it was not by very much. So, this is the only way you can get people over us is by flooding them in here. So, That's where I stand on it. You may have a whole different position. So I'm not buying that they were so far ahead of us with all these babies. I'm not buying it. Um, so the fertility rate was a little higher for Latinos and a little lower for white Americans. The study also found African Americans are younger. Yes, we are a younger population. See, with the white population, they got more elderly people than young people. With us, we got more younger people than we have older people, and that's how your population is supposed to be. See, with us, it's the correct way. So, roughly 30% of the entire Black population was below the age of 20, while just 12% were 65 or older. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. That is what a normal population looks like. You have more younger than you have older, y'all. It's not that way for them folks. For them folks, they got a big old huge population of old people and they hardly got that many young people. That's why when the old population gets finished dying out, it ain't going to be really many of them left. Their population is going to go down in a huge way. All right. So let's go on, y'all. Let's go on. Just under half the Black US population, 45%, was younger than the age of 30 in 2022. And the median age for Blacks in America was just 32. Yes, exactly what it's supposed to be. By comparison, according to Lopez, the median age for white non-Hispanic Americans was 43 to 44. Now, look how much older their median age is compared to ours, which is 32. The median age for US born Latinos was about 20 years old. Yeah, because y'all flooding in these people. It's not because they're having all these babies, y'all flooding them in here. So, when we took a look at the national Black population, they are relatively young compared to the nation's white population, Lopez said. For many young Black Americans, they play an important role in helping to diversify the workforce. As for geography, more than half of the nation's Black population, 56%, lived in the South. And that is the truth. That is the truth. And it's been like that. It's really way more of our population in the South. That is the absolute truth. So that's 56% of our population is in the South as of 2022. And more are leaving the North and migrating down to the South. Another 17% lived in the Midwest and Northeast, and 10% lived in the West 2 years ago. Texas has the highest African American population in the nation with 4.2 million people, followed by Florida with 3.9 million people, in Georgia. I knew Georgia had to be in there with 3.7 million African Americans. In the metropolitan cities like New York, including parts of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, there were 3.6 million Black residents in 2022. In Philadelphia, that's my birthplace, Camden, Wilmington area was among the 10 most populated areas for Blacks in the US, with 1.3 million African Americans, Lopez said. According to Dulo, communications manager of ACANA, short for African Cultural Alliance for North America, a nonprofit organization that serves African and Caribbean immigrants in the Philadelphia area. There are over 120,000 African and Caribbean immigrants from some 35 different countries living in the greater Philadelphia region. Yeah. Even when I was growing up, y'all, there was a population of Africans in the city and Caribbeans. Even when I was a child, not as many as there are now, but there were some. An overwhelming majority of them live in Southwest Philadelphia. That's my birthplace. That's where I grew up, Southwest Philly. All right, so Ikana provides access to social and legal services, community development programs, health services, organizing African art and cultural events, and an array of many other services. The Pew study updated data for African Americans in the US in areas like education, marriage, and religion. In 2022, 49% of Black households in the US earned less than $50,000, while 51% of the Black population earned more than 50,000 or more. One third of African American households earned 75,000 or more, and 22% of Black households reported 100,000 or more in income that year. That's so much for that. We're all on welfare. First of all, it's always been a small percentage within our community on welfare. When you listen to them folks, they act like all the community is on welfare, and that is not true. I remember even when I was growing up, there might have been, because I lived in an all Black community, there might have been maybe two, three families around us that needed assistance. And a lot of times, one woman, her husband died, and she had to raise three children. And then another woman, I remember her husband had left and he never came back, and she needed help. And a lot of people in the neighborhood would help out, would just give her food and help her with her children. And then there was another woman, and she was a single mother. But the other people around both had their parents in the household. In fact, that was the majority when I was growing up. And nobody, we weren't on welfare. My family was never on welfare. And I know many of you grew up in households and nobody was getting assistance. And even if you did, so what? You take what you need. Isn't that what everybody else do? I mean, you think these migrants aren't coming across the border and getting on welfare and everything else? Of course they are. But it's always an issue when our people's on there. And it's never been a lot of our people on that assistance, period. It's greatly over exaggerated. So, in terms of marriages and children, 39% of Black households were married couples. By comparison, about 71% of US households were married in 2020. According to the census, according to Pew, 31% of African American households were headed by single women, and 5% were headed by single men. Education wise, 26% of African Americans aged 25 and older have a bachelor's degree or more. 16% held a bachelor's degree, and 10% held advanced degrees. About 32% of African Americans in the nation have completed some college. Two-thirds of African Americans, or 66%, identify themselves as Protestant. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I wanted to share with you. And I hope you now understand why it's so much killing of our people going on. Let's be real. It's a lot of killing of our people. Now you should understand why. Now you should understand why. They are watching the numbers rise and it's disturbing the hell out of them. Mhm. So y'all, that's what I wanted to share with you. And like I said, please share this with as many people as you know. I sure hope I see other YouTube creators doing a video on this as well. And you look, we are in a time when a lot of stuff is about to be revealed. A lot. Oh yeah, all these people coming across the border because it's for evil intent. And that is why I'm just telling y'all it's going to backfire. It is going to backfire on them big time. Whenever you do something and you got all kinds of little hidden agendas going on, yeah, it's not going to turn out the way you want. In fact, that population that you're letting in here, they're going to eventually turn on you. You see, they're going door to door. They're not going to door in the Black community. Okay, just keep that in mind. They're not leaving their urine cups on the steps at the Black community. Just remember that. They're not coming in our community because they already know that many of the Black residents there in New York don't have much. So they're not bothering them. They're coming into the Trump areas and doing that stuff. If you look at that story that I did, they're doing that to them folks. They're not doing that in the Black community. So, yeah, I hope you're prepared for the monster you created up in here. We're not going to be the only ones dealing with them. You will be dealing with them too. So, y'all, enjoy the rest of your day. I got another live stream coming at 2 o'clock. I hope to see all of you then. Shalom, family.